Unveiling Dinah, the miraculous journey of Jacob's daughter to redemption and divine restoration. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, when the air was heavy with the dust of the desert, Dinah, daughter of Jacob and Leah, dwelled under the ancient shadows of Shechem. This city, a bustling hub of merchants and traders, beckoned all who sought connection and community. Dinah was cherished, her bright spirit infused with the youthful curiosity that coursed through her veins. The laughter of the daughters of the land compelled her, igniting a yearning deep within her heart. One fateful day, gathering her shawl tightly around her shoulders, she ventured from her family's encampment, overlooking the watchful eyes of her brothers, Simeon and Levi. They, ever vigilant, could not foresee the treachery that lay beyond their protective embrace. As Dinah stepped into the vibrancy of Shechem, innocence shone in her eyes, while beneath the surface, shadows of wickedness swirled, waiting to consume her. Amidst laughter and jubilant chatter, she caught the gaze of Shechem, son of Hamor. His eyes, burning with unholy desire, sought her like a predator hunts its prey. Before she could cry out, darkness enveloped her, silencing her pleas and replacing her laughter with anguish. Her world as she knew it was irrevocably altered, and the burden of shame clung to her like the dust of the desert. Simeon and Levi soon learned of the horror that unfolded, stirring within them the ancient code of honor and act against their sister. The sun descended, bleeding colors of blood and sorrow into the horizon. They crafted a deceitful promise of reconciliation, feigning interest in Dinah's hand in marriage, while demanding circumcision from the men of the city. This cunning ruse entangled the unsuspecting, luring them into a trap even as the men surrendered their strength. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey. I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. On the 3rd day, while weakness consumed the men of Shechem, Simeon and Levi unleashed the fury of their vengeance. In a whirlwind of bloodshed, they stormed the city, avenging their sister's dishonor. The echoes of slaughter resonated in Dinah's ears, yet she remained captive, not merely of her circumstance, but of her brother's actions rooted in revenge. Within her a storm brewed. The dignity she once held had been swept away by unprecedented violence. As her brothers returned, it was not the spoils of war that brought joy, but rather Dinah's silence, a haunting void, an unanswered prayer for peace and healing amid chaos. In this fractured world, she stood as a testament to the untold stories of women shaped by the hands of men. Her identity now tangled with trauma and despair, she wondered if a path toward restoration could still be found in the dark shadows of her life. Amidst the remnants of vengeance and thrust into uncertainty, could there be a divine spark of hope? The questions of healing and redemption lingered, echoing through the corridors of time. Would God intervene in the life of his silent daughter to reveal a purpose far greater than her pain? The narrative of Dinah remained an unfinished chapter of faith, a promise obscured by clouds of tragedy, awaiting the light of God's faithfulness to break through. In the wake of the tumultuous events that had transpired in Shechem, Dinah found herself amidst the echoes of grief. As her brothers celebrated their victory, thunderclouds gathered both in the heavens and within her heart. She sat beneath the fading moonlight, her thoughts a tempest, pondering her worth in the eyes of the Almighty. The very men who avenged her now cast a shadow over her soul. Was this the price of my honor, my dignity? She whispered to herself, standing amid the remnants of destruction. The blood of the innocent cried out from the ground, mixing with her own anguish. With the Lord, whose covenant with her father Jacob promised protection and blessing, forsake her in her hour of need. Days passed, yet the wounds of violence manifested not only outside, but deep within. Each moment felt like an eternity as Dinah wrestled with despair, her spirit longing for comfort.
Yet could there be healing amidst the bruises of betrayal? As the sun dipped below the horizon, she stretched her hands toward the heavens, her heart a fragile offering, seeking the voice of her God. Around her, the camp was restless. Jacob, her father, filled with rage and sorrow, rebuked her brothers. "You have made me a stench among the inhabitants of the land," he exclaimed, the weight of his words pressing against their hearts. "You have sullied our name, and we shall all suffer for your actions." The disquiet of disapproval seeped into their pride, stirring fear of reprisal from the nations around them. In the midst of this tumult, Dinah caught the attention of the elders, men of wisdom who knew well the stories of their ancestors. They gathered near her, their voices low with compassion. "Dinah, daughter of Jacob," one elder began, "the Lord has witnessed your affliction. Though darkness has attempted to consume you, remember, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted." This proclamation struck a chord within her soul, igniting a flicker of hope.
As she listened to the tales of women whose resilience echoed throughout their lineage, Rebekah, Tamar, and others, Dinah saw a glimmer of purpose within their trials. Their stories were marked by sorrow, yet enriched by faith, and it stirred within her a yearning to reclaim her narrative from the ashes of despair. Days turned to weeks, and though the weight of shame loomed large, Dinah's heart began to mend as she sought the Lord's presence in the quiet stillness of the evening. The mountains echoed her cries, and slowly the veil that had shrouded her spirit lifted, revealing the promise of restoration. She understood that her identity in the Lord transcended the violence inflicted upon her, and she yearned to rise anew. "Let my pain be a turning point, a testimony to your mercy," she prayed, the words cascading like a waterfall from her heart. As she lifted her voice to the heavens, she felt the tender embrace of her Creator, drawing her close to his heart. Within her spirit stirred a promise, a whisper of hope for those to come. Yet, even as Dinah took steps toward healing, the winds of fate turned. A darkness lingered as the divisions within her family deepened, drawing them into strife. In these troubled times, God's sovereignty remained a tapestry woven in invisible threads, signaling that the story was far from over. However, what Dinah did not yet know, the elders mused, was that her journey toward redemption would herald a legacy that would echo through generations. The Lord's plans were at work, preparing a path where anguish would lead to triumph, and her name would not be forgotten. What awaited her, a journey forged in pain but destined for purpose, would unveil a divine tapestry greater than any soul could fathom. As the days grew longer in the camp of Jacob, a veil of tension hung heavy over the lineage of the patriarch. Discontent was a living thing. It slithered between brothers and between father and sons, shadows flickering across their hearts. Dinah, feeling the weight of their division, wandered to the edge of the settlement, where the light of the sun gave way to whispers of the evening breeze. In her solitude, Dinah found herself haunted by the remnants of her brother's actions, avengers one moment, yet now sowers of discord. She took a deep breath, inhaling the fragrant air of the land that God had promised to her father, thinking how it too seemed tainted by sorrow. "How can I abide in peace when my brothers' hearts are stained?" she pondered, her gaze lost in the distant hills that encircled them. Meanwhile, Simeon and Levi, the brothers who had taken the sword in their hands, were filled with regret and pride. In moments when silence enveloped them, their hearts recalled the cries of Shechem's men, the blood still fresh in their memory. Yet neither brother would yield an inch to the other, each standing resolute in his conviction. Jacob saw the strife unfold before him, deepening the wrinkles of sorrow upon his brow.
"What have you wrought upon me and upon our house?" he lamented, his voice rising to the heavens as if beseeching the Almighty for relief. But amid the turmoil, Dinah's spirit leaped. She felt the stirring of something profound deep within her, a flicker of divine purpose ignited from the ashes of her despair. She sought out the elders once more, those who had shown her kindness. As they gathered beneath the stars, she voiced her heart. "Elders, is there a way that our family may yet find unity? How can my journey from pain lead to peace?" The eldest of them, wise with the weight of years, leaned closer, revealing a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Child, you are the daughter of promise. Though your brothers have stained their hands, hear me well. In brokenness, the Lord shapes our destinies. Your suffering is not in vain. The Almighty can weave glory from the threads of disgrace, bringing about a new beginning." With renewed fervor, Dinah reflected on the stories of her ancestors, the women who endured, the men who repented, all called to stand firm in faith amidst trials. And there, beneath that vast expanse of stars, she felt a commitment rise within her, to not only embrace her own healing, but to shepherd her family toward reconciliation. "What if my story is not yet fully written?" she mused aloud. "What if my path to restoration can guide them back onto the righteous way?" Somehow she felt knit together with a purpose that extended beyond the confines of her immediate suffering, as if the Lord's hand was charting a course through darkness into the light. There came a moment when the air grew thick with divine promise. Dinah sensed a familiar warmth enveloping her, a reminder of God's covenant with her father, Jacob. It whispered of the fruitfulness that awaited, of a future yet unseen, but undoubtedly blessed. In her heart, she took a stand, not just as the sister of avengers, but as a beacon of hope. Yet uncertainty loomed heavy, as she would soon confront the tangled web of her family's disputes. Dinah could not foresee the trials ahead, nor the despair that might yet threaten her burgeoning faith. For in the tapestry of God's sovereign plan, the threads were still being woven. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled like the promises of God, Dinah rose, feeling the weight of her journey ahead. "Father, let your will be done," she breathed into the night, asserting her trust in the one who had called her from darkness into his marvelous light. But as she turned away from the elders, darkness loomed. A storm brewed on the horizon of their family strife, for she would soon discover that healing was not a straight path, and that God's plan was yet unfolding, intricately layered and profound. A plan where her name would bear witness to his glory, where her testimony would reveal a legacy not only of pain, but of divine restoration.
What awaited in the days to come would reveal connections deep and eternal, for God's story was far from over, and sovereign purpose beckoned just beyond the veils of uncertainty. As night surrendered to dawn, a new day dawned upon Jacob's camp. The sun's rays pierced through the hazy shroud of lingering discontent, yet its light struggled to penetrate the shadows cast by conflict among the brethren. Dinah, still imbued with resolve, rose early, her spirit ignited by the wisdom of the elders. She set forth into the heart of the camp, where the murmurs of her family mingled with the chirping of birds. The scent of morning dew hung in the air, mingling with the resolve of her purpose. She approached her brothers, who congregated, their voices low in discussion. "Simeon, Levi," her voice broke through their murmurs, firm yet tender. Her brothers turned, surprise etched upon their brows, for they were not accustomed to Dinah stepping forth with such determination. "Will you not hear me?" she implored, stepping closer. "Our family is on the brink of fracture. Each day that passes weighs heavier upon us, and I too feel the burden of this discord. What if our pain is but a pathway toward a greater purpose? Can we not seek reconciliation, however daunting?" Simeon's reply was tinged with bitterness. "What would you know of my suffering, sister? The blood on our hands, our honor tainted, can it be washed clean with mere words?" Levi echoed his brother's resentment. "We acted for justice, and yet it feels like opening a wound that will not heal. What magic words can bind the gaping wounds we've inflicted?" Standing before them, Dinah sensed the tumult swirling around her, yet she felt anchored by the divine promise that ignited within. "Justice is a burden we must bear, but we are more than the sum of our actions. Do you not see? Our Father's heart is breaking. He grieves not only for what has been lost, but for what can come to be again. I see in you both men capable of so much more than avengers."
There was a moment of heavy silence, the weight of her words holding them captive. A flicker of sorrow danced in Simeon's eyes, the fire of pride dimming, struggling under the burden of truth. Levi crossed his arms, wrestling silently with the tension that suffocated their bond. Then, like a spark igniting dry kindling, Levi broke. "Yet how do we mend such a rift? Is it not too late for us?" "Nothing is beyond redemption," Dinah asserted, her voice steadied by fiery conviction. "We are called to bear witness to grace. Mankind's greatest story is not one void of mistakes, but one where the broken find healing, where the fallen are lifted. This is not merely my story to tell, but ours as a family. God can transform this darkness into light." Simeon's hands trembled as he fought against a wave of emotions, past the weight of his pride. "But how can we face our Father? He may never forgive us." "Forgiveness is a gift we give not only to others, but to ourselves."
It is a balm for the soul. Together, let us return to our Father, seek his heart, and perhaps he will find it in himself to forgive, just as our God forgives. Let us be the hands that rebuild the bridges we've burned, she urged gently. Tears brimmed in the corners of Levi's eyes as emotions churned within him, a storm of regret and hope. "You speak wisely, sister. If you can stand in the gap, then so shall we." United in purpose, the three siblings turned toward their father's tent, breath drawn in tandem, hearts pounding like the pulse of life itself. The camp trembled subtly as the wind rustled through the trees, as if awaiting their decision. As they approached, the figure of Jacob emerged, wearied by worry, the weight of his family's strife etched upon his brow. Dinah and her brothers paused, knowing their journey would not halt at mere words. Here lay the moment of truth. A divine encounter awaited them, where the past and future would wrestle for dominion, and a covenant rooted in forgiveness might bloom anew. But what they did not see was the shadow lurking at the edge of the encampment, a presence watching, waiting to whisper seeds of discord once more. An unseen hand was at work, weaving interventions into the tapestry of their lives, a reminder that the divine plan was unfolding, intricately entwined with every choice, and perhaps a greater revelation about God's sovereignty was poised just beyond their understanding. As the sun stretched higher in the sky, radiating warmth and light, Jacob was deep in thought, his mind wrestling with memories of loss and hope. His heart, heavy with the burdens of anger and fear for his family, felt the weight of impending confrontation. His children approached, their faces marked with apprehension, yet driven by a united purpose. "Father," Dinah called, her voice unwavering, breaking the silence like a trumpet proclaiming a new day. Jacob's gaze lifted from the ground, and he saw the three of them standing together, a triangle of resolute that time had sought to fracture. "What brings you here, my children?" Jacob's voice faltered as he beheld their determined visages. "Is it to reproach me again for my perceived failings?" "No, Father," Dinah answered, stepping forward. "It is not to condemn, but to seek healing. We come to you as one, united in our plea for reconciliation with the past and each other. The burdens we carry have grown heavy. Can we not come together to heal?" "Reconciliation." Jacob's brow furrowed, the past flickering through his mind like shadows upon the dense canvas. "You call for such a thing after what has transpired. Do you not comprehend the peril that lies ahead? The bloodshed cannot simply be forgotten." Simeon, emboldened by Dinah's idiocy, raised his voice. "But Father, can we not understand the full weight of our actions? We acted in fury, yet we now long for mercy. Is there not grace even for us?" At these words, Jacob's heart stirred.
He felt the tendrils of compassion entwining his spirit, yet fears lingered like phantoms. "You seek to put away anger, yet I worried at the swords we draw in defense will never find peace." "We have come to know," Levi intoned, "that true peace is born from the willingness to lay down our swords. Forgiveness, though difficult, paves the way for healing. Just as our father Isaac sought mercy for you, let us seek the same for one another." In this moment, a profound silence enveloped them, the immutable essence of urgent grace permeating the air. Jacob's heart wrestled in solitude, yearning for reconciliation within, yet burdened by the scars of betrayal. "Will you grant us the chance to start anew?" Dinah pressed, her voice both fierce and tender, as if speaking the very truth of her soul. In our struggle, we may yet forge not just a truce, but a bond stronger than before. Jacob inhaled deeply, a gurgling knot of emotion rising within him. Do you not see the encircling darkness of vengeance? Can we ever escape its clutches? But even as he spoke, the winds picked up, rustling through the camp, and stirring memories of promise bestowed upon him by the Almighty. The echoes of hope lingered like the softest whisper of an old dream, the creed that spoke of descendants like stars, myriad and blessed. As they stood together, a defiant challenge brewed in Jacob's heart. He looked into the eyes of each child, Dinah, Simeon, Levi, their determination igniting a flicker of his own lost faith. Then let us embark upon this journey together, he said, conviction blossoming within him. For if our God is indeed a God of mercy, he may yet resurrect our family from the ashes. Yet hear me, we must prepare for what is to come, for while we seek reconciliation, we cannot ignore the watchful shadows waiting beyond our camp. Dinah's spirit ignited as her father's voice resolutely rang through the air, but even amidst their newfound resolve, the presence that lurked in the shadows began to stir, an ominous foreboding they could not yet comprehend. Unbeknownst to them, the very tapestry of their family's destiny thread itself entwined with a greater design, a divine plan unfolding in the heavens above. What lay ahead was not merely a call to forgiveness, but the dawn of something breathtakingly profound, a journey towards a legacy birthed in struggle, heartache, but woven with threads of inextinguishable hope that their God would reveal in his perfect timing. As the evening sun began to dip beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the camp, Jacob and his children stood in silence, hearts heavy yet hopeful. The air bore a sense of anticipation, as if the very heavens were holding their breath for what was to come. "Father," Dinah broke the stillness once more, her voice steady yet quivering with emotion. "We have spoken of healing, but what steps must we take? How do we begin to mend the wounds that have so deeply scarred our hearts?"
Jacob looked over his children, each one bearing the marks of their choices and the weight of their shared history. The first step, beloved, is to acknowledge the pain we have caused ourselves and others. We must lay bare our hearts before God, for only His light can illuminate the darkest crevices of our souls. Simeon nodded, a flicker of understanding igniting in his eyes. Then we must choose to forgive those who have wronged us, as we seek forgiveness for our transgressions. It is a difficult path we tread, but one we must not walk alone. Levi, feeling stirred by the gravity of their discourse, added, "Let us also remember those we have wronged, how we might seek to make amends. Forgiveness is not only about words, it is characterized by action, a tangible demonstration of our desire for peace." Dinah's heart swelled at her brother's words. She could see a flicker of the man her father once was reflected in them, and it emboldened her spirit. "We shall gather the families we have hurt. We must present ourselves before them, humbly asking if they can find it in their hearts to forgive. It is a burden we cannot carry alone." As Jacob listened, he felt a tremor of fear clawing at his insides. The specter of his son's anger loomed larger than he had anticipated, and the memories of shattered relationships sharpened his resolve. "You are wise beyond your years, my children," he finally said. "But beware, for while we seek reconciliation, the path is fraught with uncertainty. The world may oppose us, and retaliation may still loom. Yet we serve a God who calls us to love in the face of hate." While shadows lengthened behind them, a distant rumbling began to stir in the earth, a subtle warning that echoed Jacob's trepidation. The families they sought could wield much power, and the past often rages like an angry sea beneath a calm facade. "Perhaps it is the remnants of our unyielding pride that keep us shackled to our past," declared Dinah. "Pride blinds us to the opportunity for redemption and healing that our God offers freely. Let us set aside every grievance and humble ourselves. For he promises in 2 Chronicles 7:14, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land." The words fell upon them like gentle rain, a promise soaked in divine grace. Filled with newfound determination, the family clasped hands, surrounding Jacob in a circle guarded by their renewed covenant.
Together we stand, Levi vowed, not just as brothers and sister, but as warriors committed to forge a new life. In that fragile moment, a glimmer of hope flickered brightly amidst the encroaching shadows, yet the air trembled with something unspoken, a sense of an impending trial, a challenge that would soon come raging like a tempest testing their resolve.
As they stood awaiting the dawn of a new beginning, a vision danced through Jacob's mind, a rich tapestry woven with purpose and promise. "What we embark upon may lead to unforeseen challenges," he murmured. "Yet I sense that through our faithfulness, God will weave the threads of our lives into a grander narrative, a legacy that transcends our immediate pain. For in the depths of trial, God beckoned them toward a destiny tied inexorably to his unfailing plan." Suddenly, from within the shadows, a movement stirred, prophecy poised to unfold. But what they could not see, Jacob thought, feeling an inexplicable weight upon his heart, was that their journey of redemption would lead not just to familial healing, but towards a pivotal moment in the very history of nations, igniting a spark of divine purpose that reverberated through the ages. As dawn broke over the horizon, the soft glow illuminated the faces of Jacob's family, revealing both the resolve and vulnerability etched upon them. The air, filled with the scent of dew-laden earth, bore witness to their silent prayers, lifting heavenward in mutual dependence. "Let us prepare our hearts," Jacob spoke again, his voice steady with a newfound assurance. "We embark on a journey not merely of words, but of sacrificial love. Our first step must be to seek out the families we have wronged. We must approach them, laying aside any pretense, and offer them our humility." Simeon took a deep breath, his shoulders squared with resolve. "Then I shall go first, Father. I shall seek out Shechem, the son of Hamor. It is he whom my fault has caused the greatest grief." There was a momentary hush as his siblings absorbed the implications of his words, tinged with both trepidation and awe. "What if he refuses us, Simeon?" asked Dinah, her voice laced with concern. "What if he harbors resentment against us still?" "Remember, dear sister," Levi interjected, his gaze piercing, "forgiveness begins with courage. It is not upon us to dictate their response, but to offer the olive branch regardless of the cost to ourselves. Just as our Father reminds us, God calls us to sow peace where once we sat in bitterness." With a nod of agreement, Jacob leaned forward, placing a hand upon Simeon's shoulder. "May the God of our fathers go before you, my son. Pray and seek his favor, for he alone can soften hearts." Together they lifted their voices in fervent prayer, each word a petition interwoven with hope and fear. As the sun climbed higher, its rays pierced through the branches, casting a mosaic of light upon the path before them. Dinah felt the weight of expectation settle upon her chest. She could not shake the foreboding that wrapped around her heart. "And I will journey with you, Simeon," she declared resolutely. "It's not just the wounds of the past we bear. It is a chance for healing, for our family's name." The siblings gathered tightly, hand in hand, forming a solid ring of unity. With a deep breath, Jacob summoned his courage to speak once more. "Let this day mark a turning point. Remember the words of Isaiah 57:18-19. I have seen his ways, but I will heal him. I will lead him and restore comfort to him, creating praise on the lips of the mourners. May we be led by God's mercy as we walk toward those we have wronged." Thus they set forth, leaving their camp behind, the hushed whispers of the wind seemingly urging them onward. Each step was imbued with a mixture of anxiety and determination as they traversed the dry terrain, the sun blazing overhead. The shadows of the past seemed to stretch long and dark, but their resolve shone bright, refusing to bow under the weight of brokenness. As they neared the city gates of Shechem, an unexpected stillness fell upon them. The square was bustling, yet in their hearts an eerie silence prevailed, as if all of creation held its breath, sensing the weight of impending confrontation. "Will they listen?" Dinah wondered aloud, her heart pounding beneath the weight of uncertainty. At that moment, a figure emerged from the crowd, Hamor himself, eyes wide with incredulous disbelief. "What brings you here, children of Jacob?" he called, the onlookers turning with bated breath, curiosity mingling with caution. With heavy hearts and burning resolve, they moved forward, ready to confront their painful past in the light of forgiveness and redemption. Little did they know,
This moment would echo through the ages, destined to usher in a wave of divine transformation, irrevocably linking their family story to generations yet unborn. As Jacob watched, a stirring surged within him, igniting the knowledge that divine providence was at play. What we are about to witness, he whispered to himself, is but the beginning of a sovereign plan that will stretch beyond our understanding, a moment that could reshape the very fabric of our legacy. As Hamor stood before them, a palpable tension enveloped the square, the air thick with uncertainty. The murmurs of the crowd faded into an anticipatory silence, for all eyes were upon the children of Jacob. Simeon stepped forward, his heart pounding yet resolute. "Hamor, we have come to seek your forgiveness for our grievous misdeeds. My actions have wrought chaos and pain. It is with deep regret that we acknowledge our wrongs." Dinah, heart aflame with courage, took her brother's hand, sensing the pivotal moment unfolding. "And I stand with him," she declared, her voice steady despite the tempest within her. "Together, we seek not only your forgiveness, but also the opportunity to mend what was broken. We desire restoration and healing for our families, not enmity." Hamor's brow furrowed as he studied their faces, recognizing the sincerity that enveloped them like armor. "Is it truly the spirit of humility that guides you to me, or is there a darker intent behind this visit, seeking to redress wrongs with more wrongs?"
His words were wary, yet they contained a subtle glimmer of hope. Levi interjected, "We do not approach you with swords drawn, nor with hearts filled with pride. We come bearing the burden of our past, offering our hands in peace. Just as the sun rises unbidden each day, so do we desire to rise above bitterness and cultivate forgiveness." Hamor lingered in his thoughts, a battle evident upon his face. The murmuring crowd served as witnesses to this fragile exchange. Finally, he spoke. "Show me the depths of your sincerity. How will you prove that you seek not vengeance, but reconciliation?" Simeon looked to his father, and in that moment, Jacob felt the weight of generations resting upon his shoulders. He stepped forward, lifting his voice, resonating with ancient authority. "We are not here to barter with blood. Rather, we yield ourselves before God's righteous decree, rooted in the very covenant that binds our forefathers, Abraham and Isaac. We wish to forge a new path, one of reconciliation that will serve not only our families, but extend beyond the confines of our enmity." The crowd, captivated, began to murmur amongst themselves, exchanging glances of both disbelief and intrigue. Hamor, struck by the profound change within Jacob's family, felt a flicker of hope kindle within him. "If what you speak is true," he affirmed, "then I pray for mercy from the Creator. Let this bitter past dissolve into the waters of forgiveness." At that crucial moment, as tension hung thick as morning fog, Dinah spoke with soaring conviction. "By the grace of God, let us be reminded of His peace that surpasses all understanding. Only light can dispel the shadows. Allow us to shine together. The God of our fathers speaks of healing and new beginnings." As her voice echoed through the square, a stillness enveloped them. The people sensed it, the divine presence settling over the assembly like a soft rain. Suddenly, a child, standing at the periphery, laughed and danced, drawing smiles from the solemn onlookers. The heaviness began to lift, a sign of God stirring hearts toward unity. Hamor, now recognizing the significance of this moment, nodded slowly. "Then let us meet tomorrow at the Gate of Peace, where we may discuss the terms of this reconciliation and set forth on a path of healing." As they concluded their meeting, Jacob breathed a sigh of relief, yet the air was still charged with the unknown. He knew that the journey they had begun was only a step towards something ineffable. What awaited this family beyond the gates of Shechem was veiled in divine mystery, yet Jacob felt an assurance resonate deep within him. Surely, he thought, the Lord has a purpose in all this. Perhaps through the trials yet unseen, the story of our family can weave into God's great narrative, a legacy intertwined with the threads of redemption and hope. The dawn broke gently over the land, casting a soft light upon Shechem.
Jacob arose early, his heart filled with a tangible hope, yet shadowed by the weight of the past. He gathered his sons and Dinah, urging them to prepare for the meeting with Hamor. The sound of water roused in the distance echoed as a reminder of the cleansing nature of their intentions.
Dinah felt the stirrings of unease within her spirit, yet she held firm to the words she had spoken before. Her gaze swept over her brothers, each bearing the marks of their shared history. "Together we shall stand," she declared, the resolve swelling in her chest. "Let our unity be an offering, a testament to the goodness of God amidst our brokenness." As they approached the gate of the city, the sun climbed higher, its rays illuminating the pathway ahead. The multitude had gathered, a tapestry of faces, some clouded by skepticism, others illuminated with curiosity. Hamor awaited them, flanked by his own kin, their expressions a mixture of anticipation and wariness. "Children of Jacob," Hamor began, his voice steady but laced with gravity, "today marks a new beginning. Forgiveness and healing dwell within our grasp, but it is met with the heart's true intent." Simeon stepped forward, emboldened by Dinah's presence beside him. "It is indeed our desire to restore what has been torn apart. Let not the shadows of past transgressions hinder future blessings." His words hung in the air, heavy yet hopeful, drawing both admiration and doubt from the onlookers. The crowd murmured, a swell of emotions washing over them. Levi took a step into the center, recalling a time when Joseph's dream had ignited their fears. "In the face of uncertainty, we must not forget what lies within." He raised his hands. "We seek only harmony. Let us grieve the past, yet rejoice in potential. It is not merely forgiveness we seek, but transformation." A ripple of energy coursed through the assembly, like a whisper of the Holy Spirit among the faithful. The hearts of many began to shift, inspired by the courage laid bare before them. Hamor, sensing this shift, paused for a moment, his expression softening. "If you truly seek a covenant rooted in peace, then let us forge it here and now." Yet even as the moment bloomed with potential, a shadow loomed over them. Fear of betrayal or deception lingered in the hearts of some. "What assurance do we have that this peace is genuine?" one man called out, breaking the silence with a challenger's voice. In that decisive moment, Dinah felt the weight of their shared history pressing upon her. Stepping forward alone, she looked deeply among the crowd. "I bear witness to the pain that was born of our actions. Hear me, people of Shechem. I desire not only forgiveness, but also a future where our children may walk as friends instead of enemies." As she spoke, her words ignited something beautiful. Tears streamed silently down the faces of women. Men nodded in reluctant acknowledgement.
It was as though a dam of bitterness had begun to crack, allowing hope to weave through the hearts present. In that sacred exchange, Jacob raised his voice, "Let us pray together." And as they bowed their heads, the air shimmered with divine expectancy. The cries of the assembled echoed heavenward, a chorus uniting their voices, beseeching God for guidance and mercy. Suddenly, a wind rustled amongst the trees, stirring the leaves as if to carry their prayers beyond sight. As this divine moment unfolded, Jacob sensed a deeper revelation. The Spirit stirred within him, whispering truths of restoration far greater than mere reconciliation. Could it be, he pondered, his heart racing, that through this union, God's purpose is to birth something new from the ashes of our pain? As they lifted their heads, boldness filled the air like sweet fragrance. But as they sought the next steps in their newfound alliance, a voice spoke through the crowd, "Beware, for not all hearts are inclined to peace." The future thus unfurled, cloaked in mystery, a promise hidden just beyond their grasp, beckoning Jacob's family into greater depths of God's sovereign plan. As the sun ascended in radiant glory, illuminating the faces gathered at the gate of Shechem, hope surged through Jacob's family like a river eager to burst forth from its dam. The murmurs of the crowd swirled, each face a reflection of skepticism and yearning, bridging the past's pain and the future's promise. Dinah stood resolute, her heart brimming with conviction, as she recounted the grief that had been born from their past actions. What we seek is more than mere absolution. We desire to cultivate relationships that rise above the bitterness that once divided us. Let us nurture the seeds of peace within our hearts and foster a spirit of kinship. At her heartwarming words, a woman stirred among the crowd, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She raised her voice, "And what of our shattered families? Can we truly mend what has been irrevocably torn?" The vulnerability in her question resonated deeply, echoing the wounds many carried. Simeon, emboldened by his sister's fervor, stepped forward once more. The journey of healing begins with courage, the courage to face our faults and offer our hearts in humility. We extend a hand, not merely to seek forgiveness,
but to restore our name among the nations. A palpable silence enveloped the assembly as hearts began to soften under the weight of their stirring testimonies. Levi took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of this defining moment. This is our time to embrace God's call to peace, to be living testimonies of grace. Together we stand, not divided by our past, but united in hope. Jacob, feeling the swell of faith rise among his children, turned his gaze to Hamor, recognizing the flickers of change in the man's countenance. Let us not delay in our commitment to a new covenant.
May our words bind us as a people yearning for restoration and blessed unity. Hamor hesitated, feeling the stirrings of something profound within him. The essence of forgiveness began to seep through the cracks of his heart. Then let us forge this covenant, but only if we will commit our hearts to true change. For our children's futures must not bear the weight of our grudges, he proclaimed. The crowd stirred quietly, hope weaving a tapestry of unity where once animosity had thrived. With the dawning realization of shared paths, the families moved closer together. Dinah, emboldened by the sight of so many willing to embrace forgiveness, held her breath and offered a fervent prayer within her heart. Almighty God, bring healing to these hearts. It is you who has suffered with us. Now let our pain be transformed by your redemptive grace, she whispered, the weight of generations resting upon her. A stillness fell over the assembly, as if the heavens themselves were participating in this sacred moment. As the area quieted, Hamor raised his voice, visibly moved. Let this day mark the beginning of a new legacy, one forged in unity and mutual respect. For in our journey towards healing, we honor not only our families, but the Creator who watches over us. And as their hands clasped in the center of the square, a collective silence breathed in gratitude. Suddenly, a child's laughter rang out clear and sweet, scattering the remnants of tension like autumn leaves in the wind. In that singular unison, Jacob beheld the beauty of redemption manifest before his eyes, as he witnessed generations past and future converging in a moment of unparalleled grace. Days would unfold into weeks, moments filled with the echoes of forgiveness, small gatherings, shared meals, and the laughter of children unaware of the shadows that had once gripped their families. A renewal swept through Shechem, as old wounds began to close under the balm of unity and cooperation. Yet amid this joy, the specter of strife loomed a distance away, a reminder that their journey was far from over. There would still be trials, shadows would arise, but even within those shadows, Dinah and her family now stood with a solid foundation in faith, emboldened by the grace they received and shared. "Father," Dinah murmured, feeling the light of the morning sun rays embracing her spirit, "you have turned our mourning into dancing, and our story isn't just ours, it's a narrative for generations. In our brokenness we have discovered healing. It is yours, Lord, to do as you will." And thus the family of Jacob, a patchwork of hearts woven together by trials and transformation, bore witness to God's faithfulness. They grasped their destiny, yearning to be beacons of hope, catalyzing a legacy marked not by division, but by unwavering love. So rise and listen, dear brethren, for this journey of redemption does not end here.
Let it be a testimony for all who seek healing, reminding us of the work God can do through courageous hearts. Take hold of the truth which lays before you. Redemption is possible, even for the most fractured souls. Share this story of hope and healing. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that inspire faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your spiritual reflections on this story and how it has impacted your faith. Your thoughts hold immense value in sharing God's message. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. We are called to carry His light into the world. Together, let us embrace the power of His love and spread this burgeoning legacy of faith across generations.